Hey everyone, welcome back to what we at Redemption Church call Faith in Action, a brand new online series where we explore vocational ministry in the 21st century. Whether that means exploring the role of a lead pastor, a youth pastor, missionaries, a university professor of theology, things of that nature. We want to see what it requires in the 21st century to live out your faith professionally, to seek God with your whole self, and be paid for it or go vocationally. Well, today we have a brand new guest, Brother Apollo Rodriguez.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today. He is a monk at Saint Leo Abbey and a prior, right?
Yep.
Recent position that he's acquired in the past year. And Brother Apollo is a special friend of mine that I met here when I was at Saint Leo as a student, when I began going mass during the summers, 2021, 22, thereabouts. And he's been living the monastic life for 10 years, man, a decade. This July, he'll mark his ordination or coming into the church as
Profession.
Profession. Mm-hmm. Man, that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so he's 32. He's been at this, man, since the year 22. Young man, you dedicated your life to the Lord.
Oh, I entered the doors at 21.
Okay.
And then I had a year of novitiate where they really try you and see, can you handle this?
This is really what you want to do?
Exactly. So you build the foundation of the monk that you're going to be for the rest of your life in that year.
Sweet. Well, great. So give us a brief history, now that we have a bit of an introduction down, about what religion, what Catholicism, what Christianity looked like in your family life. Did you grow up a Christian?
I did. We attended Mass every Sunday, like all good, Christians are supposed to. And every Sunday, it would either be with my parents or with my grandparents, and we would go to Mass. I was that loud kid that was hard to control and didn't really pay attention and everything, and I would look forward to that part. Or, oh, do we get to go soon? Because then we get to go eat.
Yeah.
And then my grandparents, my grandmother especially, she'd give us a piece of gum to keep us occupied. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, you hear about that, and you're like, oh my gosh, how could you? But back then, my grandmother was pretty smart.
Yeah, she knew how to say
like,
shit.
so shut them out here. But nah, it would keep us occupied. I keep our mouths occupied, so we wouldn't be blabbering in church. Mm-hmm. But little did I know, growing up and all of that, and being a part of the family, going to church, and having the Christian faith come home with us, I didn't realize how much that would impact me for the rest of my life, through all the travails that would happen throughout life. Mm-hmm. So that was a cornerstone of building the man who I am now and of the monk that I am today.
Wow. So your family trained you up, as the Bible says,
They
the
tried.
way you should go?
They tried. They certainly tried. It didn't take entirely, because, we all go through those phases in life where, oh, this is just a waste of time. This is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to go to church. I want to stay home and play video games.
Yeah.
Classic.
I guess so.
Yeah. But it turned into being at church with my family, to making friends at church, and then all of us growing up together, being with my peers. And so it was the family unit, and then the fraternal friendships that were born within the faith as well, that led me to continue to desire the family structure going forward. And joining the monastery was the most logical ending as I was going through the discernment process.
Yeah.
Just heavily thinking about, what is it that God is calling me to do? I thought it was in a different direction. I thought it was, I wanted 19 kids. I wanted a big old family. I wanted to take over the school. And then it turned into, oh, well, maybe God's calling me to serve at a parish, to go off and become a priest. But I was doing all of that discernment while I was here at the monastery. I was hanging out with the monks. I was running youth retreats. And so that familial structure, I didn't want to lose it. And the monastery definitely fed me in that respect. Wow. And with the faith being the boundary of everything, of that being the motivation for everything, that really fed me as well. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I have everything I need here. I have family, I have faith. So the monastic life just sucked me in pretty much.
Man, that's beautiful. So it eliminated your ulterior motives and invokes something that God had already placed in you and brought it to the surface.
Faith, born in family, flourished in family, and I wanted to keep it in the family too.
Sweet. Yeah, religion and the true ministry occurs in the household, and then it, of course, gets translated to community and things of that nature. Well, discussing a little bit about how you weren't quite sold on your faith to begin with. How did you become a monk of all things? How did you come to Saint Leo or the Benedictine tradition? You're from Claremont, right? Which is an hour plus away from here.
Yeah, just an hour. I mean, even in middle school, I had to go to the faith formation classes in order to do the sacrament of confirmation. So that's when you're labeled, okay, you're an adult in the church, you have willingly accepted the Christian life. And then we have a big celebration about it. You're reminded of your commitments at baptism, and you get anointed with chrism in order to mark you as a full-fledged adult Christian within the church. In order to go through that process, I had to do a retreat. And so my parish, Blessed Sacrament, they trucked us all over here, and we had our confirmation retreat. And to be honest, at first I hated it. I thought, oh, these people are fake. This is a waste of time. Again, I want to go home and play video games.
Yeah.
And they invited us to come back that summer. They're like, hey, you had a youth retreat. Come on back for the summer, and you'll have a whole week of praise and worship, of religious instruction. You'll get to pray with the monks, and then we'll just have a fun, grand old time. And I hated it. Yeah, I was like, still, these people are fake. This is a waste of time. It wasn't until the next summer that towards the end of the week, finally I started to open up and think, maybe these people aren't all fake. Maybe this isn't such a waste of time. Maybe there is something here. And that was when I finally opened up to the friendships. That was when I finally opened up to having my faith being the glue that holds our friendships together. And I did that for several years. They're like, hey, you did two week-long retreats. Now you can work a week-long retreat, and you can also continue doing the weekend retreats for the other newbies. And so they would come, they'd be middle school and high schoolers. They would come to us, we'd put on a retreat for them, and I would see that transformation. They would come and be just like how I was.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here, it's a waste of time. I want to go home and play my Xbox. And then by the end of the weekend, oh, this was great. I don't want to leave. I don't even want to go home. And seeing that transformation every weekend, that did it for me.
It could have been, I'm sure, life-changing.
Definitely.
Even for you personally.
Absolutely.
And so with current roles, I mean, 10 years later, you're serving with music, you're serving in your live stream. I've been well acquainted with those things over the years since I was a student. And you've been recently promoted to prior. You've taken on that role. What are your current roles? How do you serve in those things? What capacity do you serve here at the Abbey?
Now that I'm the prior, there's certainly more pastoral responsibilities because I need to look after the monks. I need to be a provider for the community. And that involves a lot of help. Like, oh, I don't know what to do in this situation. Can you help me with it? I thought they used to ask me for help a lot before, but now that I'm the prior of the house, I'm in charge whenever the abbot's not home. So I have to make sure that I run the house the way he wants the house to be run. And, well, that's not always easy. Yeah. Because, sometimes I think it should be run a certain way, but at the same time, well, the rule of Saint Benedict that we live calls for humility. And so that's just another reminder, hey, you need to be humble in whatever role that you're given, no matter how menial it may seem, no matter how grandiose it may seem, humility is required. Otherwise, once you let your ego slither its way on in, then it stops being a monastery for Christ and it starts being a monastery for Apollo. And
You don't want to get
Yeah.
caught up in that.
Well, I mean, what can I do? I mean, I'm trying to do my best, but if I give an example that is not Christ-like, then what example are they
Everybody
living
follows
up
suit.
to? Exactly. If I lower the bar for them, it's just going to lower the bar for everybody. And then the house will slowly start to go down. So it is a call for high responsibility and for not only being responsible for them, but also more being responsible for myself. Because at the end of the day, at the end of life, I will be called to give a recompense for how I treated the monks. And also, how did I lead them? Did I give them a life that called for a higher way of life as well? Or did I just slack on them and, no, you guys do whatever you want?
Played Xbox.
Exactly. I mean, how would the disciples have been if that was the model that they imitated? So, yeah.
We wouldn't have our tradition.
Correct. It would be the tradition of an individual, of so-and-so. Well, kind of like what St. Paul says, oh, you are arguing about who's baptized under
Apollos.
who. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's a great transition point. Thank you for your insight. Now, historically speaking, monasticism was birthed from a rejection of the carnality of the Roman Empire. The Desert Fathers wanted to retreat, whether it was to preserve their own personal faith, seeking after the Lord, or eventually into a community where a group of men went out, and women, to encounter the Lord together and keep each other accountable, protect each other, whatever it may be. How does that translate into modern life? We seem to have everything. If we want to retreat, well, we can take the paycheck and move somewhere else by ourselves. But what is the relevance behind rejecting the world, picking up your vows, which we'll talk about in a minute? Tell us a little bit about that, what that means for us in modernity.
well, it's a constant reminder that we're not meant for this world.
Pilgrims.
Yeah. We're pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. I love that song. I had that for my solemn vows as a reminder to myself. It's like, yeah, you're a pilgrim. It's not only the destination, it's also the journey itself and the transformation that takes place and the people that you encounter. And that is still relevant in this day and age. And also the sense of detachment, where it's always going to be a battle, whether you're in the monastery or out of the monastery. A detachment of things that bind you to the world, that constantly focus your aim at the world. But we're not supposed to be aiming at the world. We're supposed to be aiming for heaven. We're supposed to be trying to imitate the example that the apostles and the disciples left for us in their little groups. So the way the disciples would all congregate and do their activities there, work together, the way the apostles would gather around Christ in order to minister and serve other people, but also be fed by Christ when they were together. That is what our modern monasticism is still modeled after.
That same spirit.
Yes.
Getting together, fraternizing, if you will.
Correct.
In the spirit of Christ.
There's one of the vows that we take is conversatio morum, and it's the conversion of life or the conversion of morals. We're actually rereading the book in the dining room about it right now. It's a fantastic book. A shameless plug. It's called Centered on Christ. And that has been a very good book to remind all of us of what were the original motivations that you had when you joined the monastery. Are you still living up to them? Is that fire still going on? Or have you kind of let it go under a bushel basket, or under the bed? No, we had to bring it out, bring it to the community. And our community is our brothers, yes, but also our visitors, our guests who come here, such as yourself.
Yeah, it's open to students here and community members. I've been to Mass, let's say on a Saturday or something, and you'll have people from the Santa Ana or Saint Leo communities.
All the time. And with the original monks that fled out into the desert, or they would be outside of population centers, but then some would flee even further. Saint Anthony of the desert, he is the model of the father of monks. So he went out into the desert. He ran away from all of the drama, all of the distractions, all of the chasing after worldly things, and in order to focus on his prayers, focus on Christ, and that drew people. And he was like, oh, this is a bit of a distraction. I should go deeper into the desert still. But the distractions of other people are part of it. It's part of the enduring, eternal fraternity that takes place. There are hermits, but they still interact with other people at some point because you have to. And in the Rule of Saint Benedict, there is a provision in the very beginning when it talks about the types of monks that there are. There are those that live in community, and then there are those who are anchorites or hermits. But they have, they've graduated from living in community to go and do single battle in the desert against their temptations. But they're forged within the community. Hermit life isn't for everybody. In fact, the communal way of life that we have started because there was a man who, he was a veteran, he left, and he wanted to try to live as a hermit. He couldn't do it. He struggled and he struggled and he struggled. So he met up with another hermit who was having the same issue. And he's like, hey, why don't we work together? Why don't we uphold each other, keep each other accountable, elevate one another? And in that way, communal monasticism was born. Wow. And we have the Pacomian koinonia, the way of living as a community according to Pachomius, because he wanted to create a way of life that the monks can try to transcend in their way of life, while at the same time trying to keep out the world, because the world distracts, the world brings you down when we're supposed to be aiming up.
Well, cool. Thank you for explaining that. And if I'm saying this correctly, the rule or the order, Benedictine order, is one of the oldest monastic orders, isn't it? I believe so.
Yeah, celebrated 1,500 years back in the 80s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're trucking along still.
So what are some of your vows? I know there are 3, correct? Can you name those for us?
Yes. We make a vow of stability, we make a vow of obedience, and we make a vow of conversion of life, or conversatio morum, as I said earlier. And those 3 bind us to the house, to the community. So there's no one telling us, oh, you need to go over there to that house, or you need to go over there to that parish. No, we take care of our own business here. We make a vow of obedience according to the rule of Saint Benedict. So we obey our abbot, which is not like, work, but rather a willful listening and an openness to listen and to act based on that, to change your life, to do something that you don't want to do in order to make it a sacrifice. And then there's conversion of life, where just by us being together and praying together and reading together, that will, centered on Christ, of course, over time, that will change us for the better.
Spiritual formation.
Correct, but lifelong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this this occupation, this call is lifelong. It's not something I'll do it for 5 years. Ideally, it's something you commit your entire life to.
Although it's healthy for many young people to be exposed to it, at least. Not only to see that it's an option for life, but also there's something to learn here. There's something that you can take with you. Either our communal prayers, where we pray the Liturgy of the Hours together, which is we sing a hymn, we have the predetermined psalms of the day that go in a cycle, and then we have a short reading. It's a meditative silence, and then we sing one of the canticles, depending on if it's in the morning, it's the Canticle of Zechariah. If it's in the evening, it's the Canticle of Mary. And then that bookmarks our day. We start with prayer, we end with prayer. And that is definitely something that can be, learned for this day and age, especially the temptation to fall asleep, doom scrolling, rather than ending your day in prayer and then going to sleep.
Yeah. Well, and lastly, for this part of the episode, what makes the rule of Saint Benedict unique amongst other orders like Jesuits, Augustinians, Dominicans, Holy Cross, things like that?
fact that it's so old and still used today. And throughout history, it was used as a foundation to build upon.
Okay.
For example, the Franciscans didn't exist in a vacuum. The Dominicans didn't exist in a vacuum. The Jesuits didn't exist in a vacuum. They've all been influenced. We've been influenced by them as well. We're definitely not taking all the credit.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, exactly. So the Jesuits, their founder, started in a Benedictine monastery because he got injured. He was stuck there. And he's like, oh, what can I do to pass the time? I don't have all my usual books. And the monks are like, well, here, read the books that we have, which were the lives of the saints. That was a major inspiration for him that got his change going, which led to the eventual birth of the Jesuit order. And then the Dominicans, something similar. Although I know some of the orders that, like the Franciscans and the Dominicans, there was a bit of a resistance to how we were doing things back then. So it's like, oh, you guys are holed up in your monasteries all the time and you're neglecting the poor.
You go out.
So, yeah, we have to go out. And the monks are like, no. We have a vow of stability. We stay indoors. People come to us. But look at the Franciscans now. They're out in the world.
Missionaries.
They're missionaries, yeah. And they're doing good work. The Dominicans too, the order of the preachers. They wanted to go out and spread the good news. And the monks are like, no, we're not a monastery.
You guys balance each other.
Exactly. And even to this day, like, we're still learning off of each other. And do we look down on them? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because we're all just trying to follow, we're all trying to chase after Christ in a different way. But they're both fruitful. It's kind of like Martha and Mary. It's like, okay, well, she's chosen the better part. Doesn't mean it's bad what she chose, but it's better. Sit here and listen to me teach. I adore you for serving and being, a good host to all of us, but I'm here to help you. So come, sit with me and listen. That's something what we do. In our daily routine, we practice Lectio Divina, which is the prayerful reading of scriptures. And that is, again, supposed to be a cornerstone of a bookmark of our day.